Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 28 of Ain't This the Fun podcast. It's been a little bit, had some stuff going on, but we're back. And we're back with our usual guest and co host, Mr. Erik Childress.
Co-host?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Oh, man.
What, you want to call it a promotion?
Yes. Yes. Exactly what I want to call. I'm going to put that on my resume.
That's right.
Uh,
You know what
yeah.
that'll get you?
A cup of coffee and a dime or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, punch in the junk, maybe. That's about it.
Yeah, well, that's, I'll take the promotion.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
It has. It has.
A lot of stuff has happened. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I do want to address it because I know you've done it in your way, and I know on the 13th it's going to be addressed again. One of the weeks that we were going to do this, we found out that a very close friend of ours, Sergio, passed away. Was gracious enough to entertain me and this little experiment of me doing this silly podcast. He was one of the first people, other than yourself, of course, that was like, "What, are you gonna have me on? You know, when you call me, let me know." You know, he was super into helping out and being very gracious with his time. Super fun guy, knowledgeable beyond even his many years. Taught me a lot about things that I had, I knew nothing of classical music other than Looney Tunes and some other stuff. And, but these are all the things that I didn't know. So it was always interesting to talk to him. He always had a fun perspective in his own quirky ways. I will throw links at the bottom of this one to my own podcast, to this one with Sergio's appearances. I only got to know him for a few years. You knew him much longer.
Yeah. I mean, I'd known him since I started the Chicago Film Critics Association. Sergio was sort of one of the first people to sort of really acknowledge me. I mean, I was just a new. I mean, this is 2000, so this is more than a few years ago, and it was at this period where the online version of film criticism had not quite taken full root. It was still kind of an outlier kind of thing. So, and I think I was the first online critic inducted into membership into the organization.
Oh, in the CFCA, right?
Yeah. So not that I didn't have any support. I mean, Dan Geyer was a huge influence on me, and backed my cause of getting in and whatnot. But when I started meeting people at within the group, Sergio was one of those guys that he hear me talking, or just started talking to me and liked what I had to say, and next thing you know, was like, "You should come on my radio show." And I'm like, and even at that point, I was doing Nick DiGilio's show at the time, and I had done, Jonathan Brandmeier's show. I was doing that at home and whatnot. But up to that point, I had never even been in a radio studio yet.
Right.
I had not. It wasn't until 2001 that I actually, Nick invited me up to the studio to do like a Harry Potter premiere. Like, he had me go out with like the WGN microphone and to the line up the old McClurg Court Theater.
Sure.
And just interview people in line. That was the first time I was actually in WGN studio. But Sergio had me in the studio at WHBK, the University of Chicago. Just small little room, probably not much bigger than my office.
It's very tiny.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was a guest thing, having me as a guest, and we did 3 hours. It was a 3-hour show. He had a kind of a co-host at the time. Another gentleman was there, and younger guy, and and then it weirdly, the way you just did that, that's kind of how it happened. It just one day he just started calling me his co-host, and I was then every month, he would do 3 weeks of his classical music show, and then the other week of the month, it would be the Bad Mother Film Show with Sergio Mims, and soon it was Sergio Mims and myself. And I mean, I'd have to. I don't. I mean, it was once a month, so it wasn't like a full time gig, but driving down to the studio and rapping with him, and then eventually many years later start my podcast, and he's immediately first person in one of the first people into the fold to do the stuff here, and did your show, did other shows
Collins.
did on Collins' show, Scott Weinberg's show over hated. He did an episode on Heaven's Gate, and I just did an episode of that too. And Scott acknowledged Sergio in that. Again, he barely knew him. He only knew him from that episode, only because we all recommended, like, you got to have Sergio on. If you're gonna have someone defend the indefensible at some point, you got to have Sergio on, because I guarantee you there's more than enough out there for him to do a show on. And he did Heaven's Gate, and it's a magnificent episode. So I mean, there's so many, as I've said countless times over the last couple of weeks, is that his legacy is going to outlive all of us, and it's just so fortunate that so much of it is on tape. There's there's stuff on camera too, but there's so much between the podcast and, I mean, unfortunately, not every radio show was archived. And it wasn't until years later that we started, trying to do that. But yeah, that's really unfortunate. But no, it's still fresh. We're only a month away from it, so it's still fresh. And so every time I see him, and I got this,
Yep.
right handy. Yeah, I keep thinking he's a phone call away. Which he was right up until just a few days before we found out.
We literally just talked about him last night. We were doing your podcast, and it happens to be about Black Panther, the sequel to Black Panther. And of course, like you said in it, it's hard. It's weird because he likes the movies, and you guys are there. But the one time the times I get to go are usually the comic book ones, and right afterwards he wants to talk to me. Then he goes over and talks to you, and then it's usually wanting to listen to us trash on a movie, and it just so happens we end up trashing on this movie, which he would have appreciated in a lot of ways. But then the legacy of, he talked about Black Panther quite a bit. He really appreciated that movie, and we had our thoughts about what he would think on it based on the stuff he was already saying prior to his death about, even the trailers. And so we're watching that movie, made us both think of Sergio, and then we're talking about the movie, made us think about Sergio, and unfortunately, we don't get to hear, what he thought. It's not the movie, I mean, but like we don't get to hear his thoughts anymore about that stuff, and was always fun.
And I can't tell you how many times he would bring up to me the show that you and I did on Aquaman.
Yeah. He loved it.
He loved that show so much. There were literally times that he would just text me or something, just like, I had to listen to the Aquaman thing again because Laws is so pissed during that show, and it just gave him just endless pleasures listening to you trash that movie that you hated so much, because that's not something you're really known for, going that hard on a movie, that is. And he just loved it. And yeah, I mean, there are so many. I got a few of them here.
Your Putney Swope and all that stuff you had it on the thing the other day when I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, see, Penitentiary, and
sweet bags.
These are Blu-rays that have Sergio Mims commentary on them, and these are just a few.
Yeah,
these are just a few. some of the early ones, and I mean that the best film commentaries are basically a little part of film history. But Sergio was a he was a history teacher basically with these commentaries. And just, and again, it doesn't matter what you think about the movie, or if you even want to watch the movie, just turn it on and listen to him, because you're gonna learn something. You're gonna definitely have some laughs. But yeah, he really was one of the best.
Yeah. The good part is there was obviously obviously all of it's bad, but the good part, hopefully the positive part of this was, getting to see all the people with the outpouring of messages that day and the days afterward, and the wake. Everyone was there and showing their stuff, and it looks like the Black Harvest Film Festival, which he did here in the city for 27 years or something ridiculous.
I think this was about like in the 27th year.
Yeah. Which was basically his thing at the
founded.
Roger Ebert Center.
Siskel
Center. I'm sorry. Siskel Center. They have a thing on the 13th that's going to be their salute to him, and it's nice to see all the outpouring of. That's the only good takeaway from this is he'll never fully know now just how many people acknowledge him and in his passing, but we get to see it, so that's the good part.
Mm-hmm.
No, never, I don't know. He just, it's positive. The positive thing is
right.
He left a legacy. We'll still be telling stories, and some other Marvel movie or something will come out, and we'll think like, oh boy, he would have hated that, or he would, or liked it or whatever. So
yeah, I don't know if I can do it for Sergio, because sometimes he was unpredictable. Sometimes I couldn't I couldn't get a pre-read on him, what he was going to think about something. Sometimes you could, but one thing that was great about him was that if you deferred an opinion with him, like if you liked a comic book movie, he hated the comic book movie or really didn't like it, but you made your case and said, this is why I like it, this is why I think it's good, and it's a reasonable argument to it. I mean, I can hear him today. I go like, oh, maybe I'll take another look at it.
Yeah.
And he would do that. And what I was starting to say is that I started doing this thing years ago, and I really do need to update it lately, on Letterboxd, which we still got to get you on, by the way.
Okay.
One of my threads is a thing called movies my dad would have loved. And that to me, that's pretty easy. I don't know if I could do one for Sergio, but I'm thinking about it, and at least doing the ones that I'm pretty certain he would have liked, or at least that he would have liked to have seen, at the very least. He, right up until the end, he kept saying how much he wanted to see the new Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
He really wanted to see the Fabelmans. He called me from Toronto like every day. He's like, so you see it? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. And I told him all about it. And he's like, I got to see this picture.
The other thing I'll always think about is on all your episodes of your podcast with him, to end, to put a little emphasis on the end of his sentence, he'd go, and that's just the way he did it. Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it would be great. I'm the next thing I'm going to try to teach myself here is how to add like sound buttons.
Yeah,
and it'd be kind of good to have the
Yeah.
But out of just out of respect, I won't. But it would be neat because it was always a nice little punctuation on something. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I loved it. I loved it. So yeah. So, yeah. R.I.P. Sergio.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while, so I figured we'll just get right into it.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, our podcast, my podcast was birthed out of the nightmare hellscape of the last, I don't know, what is it now, 30 months we needed something positive, and that's what I thought this would be. And I thought, what better way than a list? And we're basically going to talk about 3 things that we each like, that has brought us joy, made us happy, whatever, over the last little bit here. And one thing that we're looking forward to. Could be tomorrow, could be 12 months from now. But that's basically the gist of it. Want to remind everybody, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. There's a little button right there on your screen if you're watching live on YouTube. You can also basically subscribe on iTunes, which you're currently on. So if you're listening to the audio one, you can do it there. Comment, throw a little message in there, hit the little bells that'll notify you when anything goes live or I post anything. If you're on YouTube, I hopefully will be streaming some games again pretty soon. And that's pretty much it. So, like I always say, would you like to go first? Or would you like me to go first?
I will defer to the house.
Okay.
So,
all right. It's a little bit of a... I wish I had, but it still is a good thing. So I had an impromptu trip. That was one of the reasons, one of the weeks we didn't do this. My brother, who is an artist, and if you look on YouTube here, if you look right above my pen right here, I'm pointing at a painting that's on my wall. Yeah. It's a print, actually, of the original painting. There's only 10 of them. But that is Michael Jordan's racing team. He owned a motorcycle racing team for a bit. I don't think he still does. But they subcontracted my brother to do a mural painting. I don't know how big the original was. I can't remember, but I remember it being very large. And that was for his team. He used to work doing other stuff. I won't get, unless he wants to get on here and talk about that, that's up to him. But the gist of it is he's not only a commercial artist, but he is a self-artist. He does stuff for himself. And so one of those things was he sold some paintings he did, and he no longer lives in the state. And he brought it up to me. He's like, yeah, I got to get this stuff back up to Chicago. He's like, I dread this drive. It's going to be a long drive. And I just threw out there, I said, I get off of work on Friday. I said, maybe I'll just take a plane out there or something. He's like, you would? And so we did a little impromptu Blues Brothers / Smokey and the Bandit. And I literally left work, came home, did a quick wash up, threw a different shirt on. I had my bag packed. Mrs. Fun drove me to Midway, jumped on a plane, flew right to Florida, got off the plane, jumped in his car. Then we drove from basically central Florida all the way back to Illinois that night over into the next day. We made a little pit stop in Nashville, had fun there. And it was just a nice, fun drive. I hadn't done that with my brother in a very long time, but got to see some of the new art he had done, and we dropped it off. And then he came and stayed here for a week. So it was super fun. It was nice having him here. We set up his work computer and stuff up in the house upstairs, and so we got him all hooked up. And it was nice coming home. I haven't lived with my brother in probably, I would have been 14. So it's been 34 years since I've actually lived with my brother for a period of time. And so it was nice. Dinners and hanging out. And we took the Bubs, our dog, for a walk and stuff pretty often. It was a nice time. And I will post a link. I'm going to double check with him, but I'll post a link to his Instagram where you can see some of his art. And I'll put that in the notes. And link out. Go take a look at it. Maybe subscribe to his Instagram. He posts stuff up there all the time. One of the recent ones, I can only describe it because it's an audio thing. I can't show it on here because I don't own it. But he did a very cool painting of what looks like a stop sign, but he changed it to a go sign. Yeah. And part of that was he didn't tell me. I saw it. I'm like, that's really cool. I really like that. He's like, oh, I'm giving it to my buddy. He's getting it. From there, it's been, I don't know, 2 weeks since he left, 3 weeks. And we get a random picture from him the other day. And it's in the dark. but the white lined portion of a stop sign, and then where the word stop would be, was kind of mixed up and moved around, and then the word go was put in its place. It turns out he didn't tell me or the person he sold the painting to, gave the painting to, but he had mixed glow-in-the-dark paint in with the white. And
Okay.
so I don't know how, he still hasn't responded to me, whether his buddy accidentally stumbled upon it or Jay told him, or my brother, Jay told him. But he sent me a picture of it in the dark, and the word go and the outline and some of the splatter and stuff glows in the dark.
Nice.
And again, I'll post a link to that particular photo from Instagram in the notes. But I really like that art, and his buddy got that one, but I got that Jordan one up here. And then I have some Star Wars stuff he made me up on my wall in the hallway there by my
Awesome.
office room. So yeah, it was really neat having him around. I was trying to arrange to get us together right around that week. You remember how that didn't quite work out, but my surprise was going to be to bring him with, and it would have been a good time. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. But it was neat having him around.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm pulling an audible on myself. Actually, it's not a euphemism.
Okay.
But
Okay.
just changing the order of my picks, because the one I'm gonna do now kind of could go in hand with what you just talked about, because one of the things I'm going to bring up with why I like this has to go with what you just did in a way. And I mentioned this to you before, that I don't know what it is, but something on the radio lately just seemed, you flip around, you just keep flipping. I don't have Sirius. I'm just using terrestrial radio and whatnot, and I'm flipping around, and just seemed like whatever time I needed to take a drive, whether it was a small drive or into the city or whatever it is, whatever station I turned on was playing Fleetwood Mac.
Interesting.
And I'm not speaking out of school here. I mean, people are just like, yeah, we know what Fleetwood Mac is, you dork. No, I know. I'm not trying to sell anyone on Fleetwood Mac. I'm just saying that it was so pleasurable to just constantly hear that the radio is still playing Fleetwood Mac. I mean, how could you not? Obviously, but playing those songs and playing, and it wasn't just Landslide on every
Right.
it was literally like a different Fleetwood Mac song. They got one in rotation on commercials right now, so I hear that one all the time too. So like Fleetwood Mac is following me in some respect, and it's just I don't remember when I officially got into the whole Fleetwood Mac catalog.
Sure.
The two things that I do remember, I think the first Fleetwood Mac song I ever heard and knew was Fleetwood Mac was the song Tusk. So this is
Great song.
in the 1980s, and I also was also aware of Stevie Nicks, a song she did called Gypsy. So those are like sort of my first two early memories of the circle around Fleetwood Mac. And then later on discovering all these songs, and you go back and you just look, you look up their greatest hits album.
It's exactly what I'm double checking while you're talking, unless you already got a list ready.
I mean, I have a list on the greatest hits here, assuming this is what it is. I'm looking up on YouTube actually, but it's an insane list.
Rip them off. Let's go. I mean, there's a bunch we could probably name off the top of our heads, but yeah, go for it. Hit it.
Dreams.
Of course.
Please, go your own way. I mean, my God. The Chain, which is a song that there was a season not too long ago, a movie season, where that song was in every goddamn movie I saw.
Damn it! If Michael Caine wasn't in it.
Right. And I remember it's in I, Tonya, and like it was like in like 3 movies in like one season. They had The Chain, was in it, and it just the way that song starts, it's like, oh, fucking Chain is here again. Not that it's not welcome, but it's just like I mean, you could pick a different song movie. Seven Wonders, Gypsy, Rhiannon, Landslide, Everywhere, which is on a commercial right now and is getting played all over the place. Little Lies, which I didn't even realize was a Fleetwood Mac song for a long time. For a long time, when I would hear that song played going to like travel soccer and stuff, I thought it was like sounded like any number of like one-hit wonders that might have had a song.
Because it was later on in their career. It was towards
right, and it just so like all those years hearing that song constantly, I was not aware that was Fleetwood Mac until I eventually picked up probably the Greatest Hits album in like Columbia House or BMG or something like that. now we're aging ourselves.
That's right.
Now, bring back 10 albums for a penny.
People still owe money to that company.
Oh yeah, yeah. We won't get into it too much, but anyway, yeah. Tusk is on it. Black Magic Woman, Don't Stop. Albatross.
You make love and fun.
You make love and fun, yeah. And just go back and how many of those songs are on the Rumors album, which is kind of universally considered one of the greatest albums ever crafted. And as you kind of pointed out the other night when I brought Fleetwood Mac up, it's the album that's basically the entire band working through their shit.
Yeah, everybody's having sex with everybody else, and they're all mad at each other and breaking up and then reattaching with a different one in the band. Yeah. And then that fifth guy, I think he's the bassist, like he's not involved in anything. Actually, I think he was married to Christine McVie for a while or something, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, when you said that the other night, I just started thinking, where's that movie?
Oh yeah,
and it can't be that far away when you really think about it, considering where we are in like the musical biopic section, because these movies are making money. We had the Bohemian Rhapsody, absolute shit, but made a ton of money worldwide. You had the Elton John one, Rocket Man, which is actually a solid movie. Did fairly well. You just had Elvis this summer. I mean, please. I mean, well, that movie is absolute trash, but it's Elvis. And now you got a Whitney Houston one coming out this Christmas. So, I mean, Fleetwood Mac, that'd be the juiciest damn biopic with some of the greatest music.
I don't think they've ever shied away from talking about it either. They're not shy about saying all the times they hated each other and then, who's having sex with who or whatever. But so I think they would probably all want to be involved. And that, especially now with like Stranger Things having Metallica hit it off again and all these things, like they see like you can't make money with streaming music anymore. And so, the artist, of course.
Right.
They're the ones who get screwed out of the money. But this is a perfect way for them to showcase their music again. Their record sales would go through the roof on, all this, the buyable music versions.
I mean, they just announced the goddamn Snoop Dogg biopic today. I mean, I don't know who asked for that. But
that's an interesting story, and it's about time. You got to think that's almost 30 years now. Yeah. 30 years. Think about that. Just for that. It's 50 years for Fleetwood Mac. You're talking 75. 73, 74. Yeah, you're talking almost 50 years for Fleetwood Mac. That's
and you're just kind of thinking Fleetwood Mac proper too. I mean, the band, the various incarnations of it go back, well into back to the 60s. But like that core group there, oh my god,
you could just do a Stevie Nicks movie, frankly.
You could,
but it'd be more fun to do the Fleetwood Mac one.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could do it like I wouldn't advise this, but you could do it like The Doors. Which, they call the movie The Doors, but it's really about Jim Morrison.
Right.
So you could call it Fleetwood Mac, and that's just about Stevie Nicks, and then they'll all be fighting with each other again. So that could just be fun.
She's by far the most recognizable. I mean, Christine McVie had that one song. I can't think of the name of it, but her song got pretty popular. Lindsey Buckingham is one of the most amazing guitarists ever, and he's had 4, 5, 6, fairly popular songs, including 2 in Vacation.
Right, and also immortalized on Saturday Night Live by Bill Hader.
Right. You know, and then, you know, obviously Stevie Nicks, I mean, still is amazing.
Are you saying Mick Fleetwood's appearance in The Running Man enough to get him further attention?
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
I think he was the majority, right? Well, no, because they each kind of wrote a song. Because that's
they all wrote.
Yeah.
I mean, like rumors that like they all had various hits. Like Buckingham had one, Nicks had one.
Oh yeah.
He had a couple on there. They're all involved. You know, that's again, that's and then just have them fuck. You know?
Yeah. Well, you can't help. You can't help them. They can't help themselves.
Right.
Yeah. It's a solid album. I mean, and that's the thing. You know, again with my weird musical library, but yeah, that's. I mean, easily you're putting 15 to 20 of their songs.
Right.
You know, whether you just do Fleetwood Mac, you're probably talking still 12 to 15 just from them. Then you add the Buckingham stuff. Then you add Big Love from him or them.
Right.
Big Love, I don't think we said. That's a great song.
Yeah.
But then Stevie Nicks stuff, Christine McVie song. And I think there is even a Mick Fleetwood song that's pretty good, solo work. So you add all that stuff on top of it. You're still talking a good 20 songs just from them. That's pretty great.
And what I was saying to tie it into what you had just talked about is that every time I hear it while I'm in the car, I'm like, if you like you said, if you string all of those songs together and just make a playlist out of it, you'd have a pretty good road trip set list. And I mean, their music feels like you're kind of going across America in various ways. And then one of their songs, Go Your Own Way, is using Forrest Gump when he's running at one point. And maybe that's stuck in my head and that's why I think of it that way. But yeah, so if Fleetwood Mac's just been following me around, and if you're gonna be stalked by someone, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
Yeah. Also, just want to point out for the record, since you are.
Oh yeah, this happens just be on my sweater.
Yeah.
But I haven't taken it off. I probably won't for a little bit. Those are our I voted stickers.
That's correct.
That's right. Did our duty yesterday. I don't play a whole lot of phone games.
Like Jerky Boys phone games, or
no, definitely not. I'll listen to them though. But yeah, there's like one or two that kind of have my time, and you have 5 minutes doing whatever. You got time to spare. You're waiting for your oil to get changed or whatever. You're playing something. I'm a video game person, but phone games are notoriously gotcha games. They get you in, it's free, and you're probably playing for a couple hours, and boom, the ads, buy these gems, buy these things. It's 5 for 10, but it's $100 for 20. It's ridiculous. They want to nickel and dime you because the game's free essentially. You download it for free, and they want to get their money out of it. There's one I play pretty consistently. I have yet to spend any money on it, but Marvel recently did one, and I mean they do every 3 months they're putting out some new game to try to hook people, and again, Disney needs to get their money.
Oh yeah.
But they released basically a card game, and there's a particular conceit to this card game that might interest you, and I'll talk about that. But war.
Oh yeah.
Pretty easy concept. You drop a card, they drop a card, has a number value. My number beats your number. Next, you steal their card. Take the card stealing part out of it, and imagine each card, instead of it being like a 3 of something, it has the Hulk on it, and it costs 3. He does 5 damage or whatever, right? So the damage is your thing. There is no defense. It's just I do damage, they do damage. So you did War in a Lane. You drop a card, they drop it on the other side. It looks like a line on the table. Now, imagine that, and remember when you would get matching numbers, you would drop 1 to each side, and you would go 3 ways.
Okay.
and you would, in that way you had 3 chances, and then you could win all 6 cards. As opposed to only winning their 1, you'd win their 3 by 2 out of 3 odds if you won 2, the whatever. So you start the game, and they give you a certain amount of cards, and they have the characters all nice and flashy comic book art on them. So immediately it's hitting every synapse in my brain. It's a collectible thing, and it's got Marvel on it, and it's got good art, and it's a game that's easily played. And each lane of the 3 has like a randomizer. So it may say, on this field, any card played gets +1 to damage. That might be the leftmost lane. The middle one will have one. The third to the most to the right will have one. 6 rounds. Super quick game. 6 rounds. Each round, the first round, you have 1 point to use. So you get dealt 5 of your cards randomly out of your deck. And odds are you probably have 1 or 2 options out of those 6. The rest will cost 2, 3, 8, whatever. So you drop that card down. And you can move it in any of the 3. One might benefit you more than the other to be in a certain lane. Some cards are just plain. Cyclops is a cost 3, damage of 4. And it just has a quote. So it's just, the card is the card. 3 and 4. Simple. But if you have Hawkeye, he's a cost 1, 2 damage. You drop him on a lane. He has a power, though. It says, like, team up or something. If you play a card on the next turn in this same lane with Hawkeye, Hawkeye's damage goes up +1. So there's a benefit. He's bringing someone with him. So if you drop a card there as opposed to a different lane, you're making his card a little more powerful. So there's a little bit of strategy to it. The other person takes their turn. All the cards are revealed at once. That does the quick math. It doesn't immediately win. Next turn comes. You now have 2 points to use. Again, you can't play Cyclops. He's a 3. Hulk's a 5 or a 6. Can't play him, but you might have Medusa. So she's a 2 cost and a 2 damage. But if you play her on the middle lane, she automatically gets +2 to her damage. So she becomes a 2 and a 4 card. Pretty simple, right? Then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. The last one, you have 6 points of value. My Hulk card is a 6 cost, 12 damage. So if you're maybe losing one of the lanes and you're on that last turn, you drop that Hulk card down on that lane. Boom, you're dropping 12 damage. Stuff like that. 3 lanes, pretty easy, simple numbers. But you got to know the powers, things like that. The part I think it's really quick and easy, so these things go by quick, and you can get right into another match or play it for 5 seconds while you're waiting for your food to heat up in the microwave. That's another thing. It's super bite size. You're not investing an hour into this. It literally takes 5 or 6 minutes to play a game. And the collectability for me is horrible. Because as you level up, it unlocks more cards. You might get Dark Phoenix, you might get whoever, and now I need that card. That card does this and that, and then you make your deck of 40. You can take cards out, put cards in, strategy-wise. It's fun and addicting for my collector OCD.
Sure.
Here's the part I think you'll appreciate as a true aficionado of gambling.
Okay.
It's called Marvel Snap. Probably know why. Thanos, a little callback, but it's also it's quick. It's a snap. Snapping cards out. Fun. A good title. Quick title. Makes sense. Kind of ingenious. But there's this thing called a snap mechanic. And so every game you play, now that I've played through all the tutorial matches, I think it's like 20. So you're playing like an AI. They're teaching you kind of the basics. They then dump you into the pool where if you hit play, it'll randomly match you up with anybody else in the entire world that is playing this game.
Okay.
And of a similar level.
Yeah.
But it starts out at the top. There's a little floaty gem, and it just has 1 in it. The idea is whoever wins is going to win this 1 gem. The gem is worth 1. What it does is basically your rank. it adds 1 to your rank. Okay? So not only are you betting how to show how great you are, because you beat them, you take the gem, you don't have a pool of gems. The snap is your doubling down or your I guess doubling down would be similar. Or your ante in your betting, like in poker. And again, I'm not as good at cards as you are, but I remember playing Xbox poker.
Yeah.
And your famous saying was, well, you don't have to pay for these dollars. I'm like, no, we're gonna enter a little tournament. Everybody gets $1,000, and you're like, well, if it's not gonna cost you anything, you could just like basically bully people with the money, because if you just keep dropping 500, people are gonna keep getting out of hands.
Right.
This is kind of like that. So when you get think to turn 3, the gem starts to glow, and if you want, you can just tap the gem. What it does is it makes it a 2 and then kicks it back to the other player, so you could drop a card. Initially, they can't see what you're dropping. Mm-hmm. If you make it a 2, they realize that if they lose, they're going to go down 2 in rank.
Oh.
Not just 1 in rank, 2 in rank. So if I hit snap, I'm basically going, you don't know what card I dropped, snap. And you can threaten the other player with their level loss. Well, if they think they're tough, they can drop a card, snap you back. It goes from a 2 to a 4. Now you're going to drop 4-point levels. They're going to gain 4 levels. And if you really want to be sassy and you're going to win, I got a Hulk waiting, and I know I dropped a thing, which is a 4-6, and I got him in a particular thing that's going to help me out, blah, 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 and I really think I'm going to do it. There's one more chance, because you were the first one to snap. They called you. You can snap one more time and make it go from a 4 to an 8, which is a huge loss in the rankings.
Yeah.
And so there's this weird bullying / strategy tactic that has nothing to do with the actual play field. It's more you and the other player calling each other's bluff on top of this silly Marvel game you're playing. There's a weird psychology to it, because I've heard other people talk about it where they're like, if the other person I guess you can snap right away. So the very first card you play, you can hit snap. Some people just start doing it. First, 1-point cards, you drop a thing. You don't even know what's going to happen for the rest of your 4 minutes, but they'll just snap. I've heard other people just go, how dare they snap me? I immediately snap them back. I don't care. How dare you on a 1-point card? It's the beginning of the game. You snap, I'm going to snap you right back. I don't even care. I don't care if I lose.
How dare you?
Yeah. And I know I thought you would appreciate that part of it, because it's not just a silly little card game or basically a more advanced version of war.
Yeah.
But there's this weird psychological component, almost like you're playing cards in a casino. You're getting to threaten that person. You can't see them. You can't talk to them. But you can hit that button to be like, yeah, you want to mess with me? You want to mess with me? You can. So, it's fun.
Yeah.
And the collectability makes it too addicting. I can't remember what my card value is, but as you unlock more cards, you can then upgrade them. As you win these little doodad points that are free. And you can upgrade a card. So my Iron Man card went from a regular Iron Man card to a cartoony version of the Iron Man card. Then I won a bunch more games. I had some points. I hit the thing. And it changed it to that cartoony version of the Iron Man card. It's called, the first level is Edge Break or something. Barrier Break or Frame Break. And it pushes the art out. So the art of Iron Man breaks the card frame. So he kind of has his elbow out and maybe a little photon blast thing coming out of the side. If you get a little more points, it's now double that. It makes it 3D. So as you're moving it around or pushing it around on the play field, it has a 3D effect, like the character's floating off the top of the card.
Okay.
And eventually upgraded more. It makes it color. It makes it animated. It actually animates the card. Does all these crazy things. So. Yeah, it's got me. I guess a lot of other people, from what I hear. I don't know if you would appreciate the game part of it, but I knew you might like the
gambling part.
more so
Yeah.
the versus part of it, not just
Well,
the
yeah,
game, but like that little extra, that little betting part, not the betting, the sort of psychological threatening or back and forth of the players on top of this silly little
I
thing.
enjoy that kind of competitiveness kind of thing, and particularly revenge. If someone messes with you and you snap them back or whatever, that's very appealing.
And it
me.
literally affects your rank.
Yeah, right.
It's like, you want to take me? I'll take you down, and I'm really gonna smash you down. So now you're gonna be playing lesser players because I beat you for more points or whatever. There is a retreat. So say I snap and it goes to 2. If the person feels threatened or like, yeah, I'm not gonna win this, if they hit retreat, they're still only gonna lose 1. If you retreat, you lose half of what the value is.
Like insurance and blackjack.
Basically. Again, a lot of these, they're mixing. Imagine it's like Vacation in Vegas with war on the table.
Yes.
But with the gambling of the actual poker sort of being a little bit of it mixed in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can retreat. So if then they snap me back and it's a 4, and now I feel like I'm not going to win. If I hit retreat, I'm now losing 2 instead of 4.
Yeah.
But if you push it and then you lose the whole amount. So it's neat. I'll put a link to the little trailer for the phone game in there. Again, they're not endorsing me in any way, but it's fun.
I like the quick stuff, and that's So that seems very doable, and sounds like fun.
Yeah, and free. There is a way, of course, to spend a whole ton of money, and they hit you with the $5. You get the fancy Iron Man this or that. Like, you can if you really want, but what I'll do with games like these, which is rare, is, and even the free-to-play games on, like a bigger, like a system, like an Xbox or whatever, is if it's free-to-play, like a Fortnite, and I'm playing for 6 months and I don't buy anything and I'm enjoying the game, there's all these people working on that game. Look, they're making enough money, the company, but, it's got to trickle down at some point to these people, hopefully, where they're getting a little bit of it. I will cough up $5 if they have a goofy skin. And so, like, Fortnite made a Thanos skin. So, I've 6 months I haven't had to pay you anything to play this game. I got it completely for free. I'll throw you the whatever, $6 or $7, and now I can run around like Thanos like an idiot because I love Thanos. Or I got to be John McClane in Call of Duty. If the diehard skin had the white T-shirt and the dirty pants and no shoes. Nice. And so that's fun. But I'll do that. So maybe in this game, 2, 3, 4 months from now, if I'm still playing it and I've enjoyed it, I'll throw them $3 or $5 down the line just to kind of, as a thank you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's silly and fun, and there'll be a link at the bottom. Again, they're not paying me or anything, but it's a fun time and it's free. What better? How do you argue with free?
Yeah.
Right. So, Marvel Snap.
Well, this is interesting because I'm glad again that I pulled that Audible, because I have something Marvel for my number 2. And it's one of the I'm very behind on my television viewing lately, but and I usually don't like to talk about any of them here until I finish at least the season, so I know whether I think the season is worth exploring or as a whole or not. And I gotta say how pleasantly surprised I was with She-Hulk on Disney Plus. I was very worried about it. I've read up on her. I know that character a little bit, just the origins, because I'm a huge fan of Incredible Hulk since I was a kid. So any incarnation I followed, a lot of that stuff. So I was very curious to see what they're going to do with it. When they started saying like it's a 9-episode legal comedy like Ally McBeal, I was like, okay, how are they going to pull this off? Then they cast Tatiana Maslany, and I was like, well, you got me. Her performance on Orphan Black is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen on television. Couldn't tell you what happened on that show after 5 seasons, but I remember everything she did on it, and she's absolutely amazing. And I was some of the creators behind it. I was very skeptical. The woman who was behind it, Kat Coiro, had directed 2 of the at least at least two, maybe three of the worst movies I've seen in the last 10 years, all kind of romantic comedy based type things, including Marry Me that came out earlier this year with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. Oof.
Oh, I think I remember seeing
Yeah,
something about that.
directed that one. But so she was brought in a showrunner and directed more than a few episodes. But I thought that they found just the right tact for that show, and it wasn't meant to be anything more than a fun, goofy half hour. It wasn't. They didn't play up like some big central villain that she was going to have to overcome. It was a week to week thing. They brought Tim Roth back as Abomination. He was started having a blast on the show. They had Ruffalo for a couple episodes. He was having fun. And then when the show's kind of settled into just sort of a weekly thing with a couple minor threads that were kind of being followed along the way, I just had a blast watching it. 30, 35-minute episodes, laughed a lot during them. I wasn't looking for a bunch of action, so to speak. I didn't really need it. I was happy getting into the comedy of the show, and anytime Maslany broke the fourth wall was perfect. I mean, she knocked it out of the park, performance wise. And even if you just watch the show just to watch her, you're already in victory territory. Did you finish the last episode?
Yep.
Did you get to it? I can't tell you how I was kind of leapt out of my chair when they did in the last episode the homage to the television show.
Yes, the opening.
I was beside myself. I'm like, that's great. They really put the effort and put into it, and then kind of did an anachronistic thing in there where she was still on the message boards typing in like the 1970s, got like an old computer and whatnot, which was a lot of fun. And I love that they leaned into that too. That all of the haters and all the crap and whatnot and all the idiots going like, oh, the show's getting so woke, now it's got to have a female Hulk. Yeah, the character has been existing for 40 some years, dickhead. That's how stupid people are.
And whether they were writing some of that stuff, especially the later episodes, whether they were writing it as the first rumors were coming around or whatever, all that stuff had been in production for probably a year or more prior to the show coming out. And yet everything they were saying in the show, it was just about everything that these goofballs were saying online.
Yeah, and then they crafted we don't know if that was the decision from the beginning or not, but that last episode where it starts to sort of play this is going to be the big finale, so we're going to have a big melee between characters, and we're going to introduce this mystery villain and stuff like that, and then she just stops in the middle and it's like, wait a minute, this is how we're going to end the show? It's like, I need a meeting with Kevin. And she goes to Marvel Studios, and you find out that Kevin is really a AI system. And so all of those jokes landed.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really fun stuff. And I just like at the end of it, I'm just like, give me season 2. Yeah, I'm after all the movies, all of the TV shows that we've gone through, was really kind of a 50-50 swing between them. Just to have something that was literally just fun for 9 episodes. Short, quick, in, out, great lead performance, doing a lot of meta stuff, but in a fun way. I had a really good time with She-Hulk.
I enjoyed it. I know Mrs. Fun enjoyed it. I especially liked the episodes where they were focusing on her, like, sort of coming to terms with being this other persona and that kind of, because you don't really get a lot of that in the Marvel universe. You used to get it with the Superman, like, does Lois Lane like me or like Superman, like that sort of thing. You don't really get that a lot in the Marvel stuff, and so that was kind of neat to see it explored that way. And online dating, and even dudes that were not just into her because she was a superhero, but like almost like a fetish thing, like, oh, you're a big lady, that kind of. But her having to deal with that, like, am I just gonna go along with this, or do I try to date normal? Like, I kind of dug that. I like the idea of her having to talk to a boss at the the law firm, and him like only wanting her to be there, as She-Hulk, and her having to deal with that. Like, can't I just be me? I liked all that stuff. I thought that was interesting take, because that's one thing we haven't seen in Marvel movies up until this point, or shows for that matter. I don't mind her breaking the fourth wall. I liked it better when she was just sort of talking at the screen, like cutting away and talking to the screen straight up, as opposed to the sort of fourth wall breaking where she goes and talks to Kevin. I didn't mind that. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't appreciate it probably as much as some other people did. Clearly you did. The only thing I didn't like about it, and this is more of a nitpick, but I'm not a fan of it. Usually in the movies, they take their time to really establish a villain and use them well for the most part. I don't like now on occasion where like they have to fill the show and they're like, well, we need villains. Let's just throw a couple of these, not really spend a lot of time thinking about it. There's a group called the Wrecking Crew, and it's basically these guys who are enchanted by Loki, and their construction tools are given like Asgardian powers.
Okay.
And so those are the guys that assault her by the house.
Okay.
They're pretty heavy hitters. Like, they've fought Thor to a standstill and stuff. So, like, they're not a joke. And she just sort of slaps them all around. It's like Three Stooges. I know it's a nitpick. I get it. I'm not a gatekeeper. Like, well, you can't enjoy your version of it. That's fine. But it's like that. What I did like, though, that they had done with the villains is some of the lesser-known ones that shouldn't maybe get the time because they're more silly, like Porcupine. When they're in the support group.
Yes.
And she's talking to him that way. And it's like, I'm Porcupine. I'm the guy with the bull's head. I can't think of his name. But, like, that was fun. Those guys are never going to be in a movie. Those guys are never going to, you don't have to give those guys time.
She was representing at the law firm, too. They'd come in and...
Yeah.
Like, the one guy was like, he had like 18 wives or something because he's Immortal Man or whatever he was. That was funny.
By the way, that character is actually very silly and funny, but he's part of what they call the Great Lakes Avengers. They were based in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not. But yeah, he's that was a great way to turn that on its head, because he's a guy who dies in battle and comes back. And that was silly for that reason, but I don't think they've ever really, in the comics, ever really explored the fact that he may have just had a whole bunch of wives.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Very, very fun. My only nitpick of the show is during the dating stuff, where, like you said, I mean, there are guys that are like, they see She-Hulk, there's a fetish thing, all that kind of stuff. But like the one guy eventually, like, She-Hulk picks him up and takes him to the bedroom and whatnot, and what's implied there and whatnot. But then, like, the next morning, she's Jennifer again. And the guy's, kind of like, oh. It's like that Seinfeld episode with, like, the bad lighting. He's seeing the one with the bad lighting and whatnot. And I'm just like, okay, like, I know you just had sex with She-Hulk and whatnot, but that's Jennifer. She's, like, you should be so lucky.
But I get. I know. And I get it.
I'm just speaking as a man.
Yeah.
That's clearly man talk, going like, idiot.
Yeah.
You're just an idiot. So, yeah.
It was good. I know.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I. All these, people crabbing and moaning about it. I don't know what they expected. The weird part about it is there have been comics where she's been portrayed more as a serious Hulk-like character.
Yes.
Warrior, fighter, that kind of stuff. I get it.
She-Hulk, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But the John Byrne era, he's a writer-artist, of She-Hulk was could be very irreverent and very silly. A lot of the covers during that time were silly. Like one where I think it's like newspaper. She's covered up and she's, partially. She's like, you mean to tell me this is how you want to do this cover, whatever. It's just her on the cover, yelling at the artist, yelling at the writer for like, this is dumb. Why are you making me do this? Like, it's a commentary on that. Like, why do I have to be sexy? And that's it. It was always had a little bit of that. So for people to be all weirded out by it now, like, oh, it's so dumb, it's silly, it's so yeah, that's pretty much the history of the character.
Right.
It's, at the time, of course, recently they've been portraying her more like a, super Hulk level strong and in more serious nature. So I think maybe some of the newer people didn't get it, but even the older people that were like, this is dumb, it's silly.
God
Okay.
forbid. God
Why,
forbid.
and why can't there be a silly Marvel thing?
Right. I mean, break it down. It's all inherently silly to begin with.
Well, sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they take their things they take seriously, but you get enough self seriousness with the films at least. Eventually you just kind of want to have a little fun.
It'd be weird if, like, the first 3 episodes, they made her out to be extremely serious. It's heavy, lawyery stuff, and I'm She-Hulk now. I have
Right.
the self, the
control my
remorse, whatever.
Yeah.
I get that. Then if in like episode 4 they all of a sudden had her, pulling Three Stooges stuff. That was always our take on Ragnarok and stuff like all.
Yeah.
You take something that was way more serious and now it's slapstick. That seems like a weird tonal shift.
Yeah.
They didn't do that from the very beginning. I think in the very first episode she talks to the screen.
Yeah, well, the first scene is like it turns into a flashback.
Yeah, right.
And she just she closes the door and starts talking to us. And she's just a wonder. She's so good. She has a lot of fun on the show. She's a great comedic actor. I mean, she's a great actress, period. But clearly showing, she has comedic chops as well. And I kind of hope that someone, maybe Ryan Reynolds, is smart enough to find a cameo for her in Deadpool 3 and just have them start talking to the camera. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm the one who talks to the camera. And then she's like, no, I'm the one who talks to the camera. And then Wolverine is just in the background. I'm like, what the fucking,
I've said it before. Like they don't. It's going to be hard to do in the movies, and I don't think they've ever done it. Because really, I can't think of other TV shows where people are breaking the fourth wall other than Moonlighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the comic, I remember there was a Deadpool one where he was with the Avengers, and of course he's all gaga about being around Captain America. He's like, oh man, it's really you, that kind of thing. But as the Avengers are talking very serious over in a corner, they look over, and Deadpool is looking away from them, talking to himself. And they're like, what's he doing? And they're all like, I don't know, that's what he does. But if you read the Deadpool book, you realize that's when he thinks he's talking to the audience. A very goofy thing was written very serious in another book, and they made sense of the ridiculousness that is the Deadpool book on occasion. And it was very smart the way they did it. And so when either of them goes into movies, which I'm assuming they'll be in one of the group movies, I hope they pull that same joke where they're very, very self-serious and they look over and one of them's just talking at the wall.
Yeah.
I find that amusing. I think that'd be good.
Fleabag is another recent show where the main character breaks the fourth wall.
Okay.
Every episode. And if you haven't seen Fleabag, it's 12 episodes. It's absolutely worth your time and has maybe the greatest acknowledgement of someone breaking the fourth wall that I've ever seen.
By the other people or by the audience?
I don't want to ruin it.
Okay.
I mean, it's so kind of spontaneous and it happens, and it's so perfect and hilarious, and I think it was an ad lib on top of it. And they kept it in. But no, Fleabag is a great show, and it's over now, so it's like 12 episodes. You can breeze right through it. It's fantastic. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
I like her, and I've heard good things. So it's definitely one of those things
you get through that in a day or 2 days, if you want to break it up a little bit.
30-minute episodes?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really terrific. Yeah. So that's my number 2.
So I might break my back trying to make this transition. But
Wow.
She-Hulk, love, Strange Love 2. My love or our love here in this house on occasion of some real good trash TV.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before, so normally I don't repeat, but in this case, it's a new season. And, of course, we immediately started watching it because it's ridiculous, which is Love is Blind Season 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We all know Morgan, who's been on here and on your podcast, knew someone in Season 2. That has recently... They're getting a divorce now, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
But Love is Blind Season 3 has started. And it is just as much of a amazingly awesome, silly train wreck as the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And so we in this house are appreciating it. But I'm definitely... if no one's ever watched Love is Blind, here's the conceit. The whole idea is you're supposed to be blind to looks. And the way they do that is they separate the sexes on 2 sides of a house. And they have all these little pod rooms. And they're 2-sided, and there's a wall that cannot be removed. It's just a wall, but it's not soundproof, so you can talk through it, right? You can't see. You can't even make out the structure of the person on the other side. You have no idea what they look like or anything. And they have these little dates, these little, I don't know, half-hour dates. And you can request to talk to someone and then go sit with them for an hour and talk to them. And the idea, they all have these little notebooks. Like, they take it so seriously. Like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I will say I have an issue with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the idea is silly. It's because after so many weeks, I think it's like 4, they have to either A, propose to the person on the other side, or you just didn't make a match, so you're not on the rest of the show. So it behooves them, if they want to stay on the show, to just get engaged, which is already ridiculous. Then they boot everyone out, whoever's a couple. Whoever isn't a couple is just gone from the show. Whoever's a couple now, they send them away on a little honeymoon, and now they get to see everybody else. The couples get to see the other people who have coupled in these engagements.
Yeah.
And so say you had a really nice time talking to this person, and they're the most wonderful voice and personality, and this is the person I want to be with, and you wanted to get engaged, and they said no to you. Okay. You may have had a second person you were also talking to. So then you may get engaged. Would you marry me? That person says yes. Great, you're a couple. Well, that first person you were talking to, they obviously said no because they were interested in a different person. Well, they got engaged. Well, now that you're out of the house and you're in these wonderful locations, they fly them to like Florence, Italy or whatever, and there are these giant mansions and pools and free food and all this crap. Yeah. Then they put them all at a pool party. And, of course, everybody's walking around in skimpy bathing suits, and the girl that was told no by the guy is now with someone else. Well, the guy maybe isn't totally attracted physically to the girl he ultimately picked, and now he sees the other girl and in front of everybody says to that girl, well, you're more of what I really would like. In front of the person you just got engaged to a week ago. It's the silliest, at times the most cringy crap ever. It's great. It's great, like, garbage food. The people, I mean, I don't want to say that, like, the people are garbage, because they're not. I'm sure some of them are very nice, but the situations these shows put these people in, if you have even the slightest bit of a-hole in you, it's coming out. Because they figure out ways to get it out of you.
Sure.
Give them alcohol, throw them in a pool, have all the ladies in bathing suits, and the woman you pick now.
Asshole.
Yeah.
Right. Alcohol plus pool equals asshole.
And so, of course, it's literally the dude, the girl he's engaged to is on the other end of the pool. He's now talking to the girl that he didn't pick. And so, of course, it broke her heart. But she is more physically what this guy would have gone for out in the real world. And so they're talking to each other about, well, see, it never worked for me in the past. That's why I did this experiment. But you're really attractive. And you're saying it out loud for people. Like, people could hear you. Not only that, but you're being taped. When you get out of this place, even if you do get married to this person who you've now said you're not physically attracted to, and this the girl you're talking to you say is hot, what are you thinking?
Nothing. Nothing.
It's
Nothing.
it's hilarious in its silliness. It's trash at its best. Netflix hit a home run. I mean, this thing is, they're just making them one after another. Like, the in-between seasons, I think, was like 5 months. Then they have their reunion special, and you have, I mean, I know there's other programs like this, but this one, for me, I don't know why recently, it has caught my attention. They're on season 3. So, my issue with the show, and I think I said it when I talked about it before, was, I may not have talked about it. I may have just tangentially talked about it. But the show is all supposed to be about personality and falling in love without seeing the person.
Right.
Yet, most, if not all, of the people involved in the show are objectively good-looking people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And again, pick in your mind, whoever's listening, or you, or whatever, pick in your mind something about someone that is unattractive. No one has to say it out loud, but something that isn't your thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have somehow weeded out most of that in every person that's on this show. Objectively, most people would look at most of the people involved in the show and just right away just go, that's an attractive person.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of it goes against
the whole point.
Because the second you get out, for the most part, most of these people are universally attractive.
Yes.
Physically attractive, right? The conceit of the show. And so odds are you probably hit a home run anyway in your mind. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this isn't like Let's Make a Deal, where you have, two very attractive people under door 1 and 2, and there's a skunk in the third one.
Right.
It's just, I mean, and again, and then you kind of start getting into the weeds then too about like, well, what is a less than attractive person?
Exactly my point. Whatever's unattractive to you. Yeah. You may like short people. You may like tall people. Well, then you wouldn't be attracted to shorter people. This, that, or the other, right? Yeah. But that's the thing is everyone is of average height. Everyone is basically good looking. Everyone is basically attractive.
Yeah.
Universally, quote unquote, attractive. And so it's just, I don't know. I think there should be more variety, I guess would be the right word. There should just be more of a variety. And they don't. And I think that kind of kills some of that part of the show. Because if you're going to do it, do it. There should be a huge spectrum of people. Height, weight, whatever. Whatever. There should just be everything.
It should be like Squid Game. And you got like 100 people that audition for the show, and I'm not saying you put them through murder games and stuff like that, but you just it's almost like you come up with some sort of like random decision making. It's just like, okay, you say have 100 people and say like, okay, if you are between this height, you're out.
Well, but see again, that's how do you know what is?
It doesn't matter.
What is the height? The good? Well, yeah, maybe
it's just you almost pick things out of a hat. Like, okay, if you're 5'8", you're out.
Like randomly.
Randomly.
Right.
So it's just random things are thrown out. If you have a clubbed foot, you're out. Just whatever it might
random
be.
stuff. The other option would be the casting. The casting director goes through basically the same process as the people.
Yeah,
the people applying for the show should only be able to write stuff down or give you their voice. The casting director should have had to make these picks for the show to be on the show purely 100% on the way the people would do it.
Yeah.
That way you get your true sense of randomness. Like when I go to play a video game and you have to create your own character, there's usually a button where it says randomize.
Yeah.
It picks height, weight, hair color, eye color, whatever things.
Yeah.
Are you strong? Are you thin? Are you medium? Are you whatever? And it randomizes it. That would be your true test of this show. If your true conceit of this show is that love is blind, it shouldn't matter at all the contestants that you put on the show.
Right.
It should be completely random. So that's just silly. But you're going to love this. And this season has particularly made us laugh in this house because there was a particular man on the show. And he's they're all filthy rich this season. They were either very poor or average income, or you're like CFO of an aeronautics company. Like, I don't whatever.
That person has no.
So this guy is one of the most pretentious guys on the planet, and he goes in there and instead of holding his wine, he's got it by the stem, and he's like talking, and he's doing the thing, and the spinning, twirling it,
stuff.
And when he's talking, he's like, I had enough money. I had just decided that I wasn't living my life, and so like that. And he's like, so I just sort of exactly, like he just sort of I couldn't do it anymore, and so I decided to go and photograph big game on the Serengeti or whatever, like. I traveled to Venice and sampled the fine wines. Like it's just, I'm like, this can't be real. Like, this is a character this guy's playing, right? Like, everyone else seems to be like Joe, average person, and this one guy, it's just the way he struck me. So we're already like, okay, something's up with this dude. Something is up with this dude. Either he's lying, or this is just an air he's putting on, or whatever. So you think he's going to go one way, and he proposes to this woman, and she ultimately says no, and because she wants to get engaged to this other guy. Okay, so he loses, right? And he doesn't end up with someone else, so he knows he's going to basically be off the show. Yeah. They always cut to the, single camera interview, like, you really thought this was going to happen, huh? And, he's like, yeah, but, it is what it is, and, this is part of the adventure of life, or, whatever crap he was saying. He's ridiculous, right? Yeah. Out of the blue, he reaches into his pocket. Now, there's a camera right in front of you. This is happening. Goes in his pocket, and he takes something out, and he's like messing with it in his hand. The cameraman's like, what's, and he's like, do you mind if I do this? And when he says that, you can see what's in his hand. It looks like, like when you have dry eyes and you use eye drops?
Yes.
It looks like one of those. And he's like, do you mind if I, and the cameraman goes, sure. And that camera guy knows exactly what's going to happen next. And he's like, he didn't say I'm not recording it. The guy just says, do you mind? And the guy goes, you're behind the camera. Yeah, sure. The guy drops in his eyes. He's like, he's going to blink and kind of rub them out. Like, look, I need to moisturize my eyes. Nope. Immediately drops his head, puts the thing in his pocket, opens his eyes, and basically goes, yeah, I thought I knew what love was. This and that, and boom, tears come out of his eyes. Totally fakes it on camera, and they recorded the whole thing and played it on the show. Oh. This guy had the balls thinking that they weren't going to record that and play it on the show.
I can't. You already know I can't hide my disdain for these things. I particularly, I'm happy to support trash. I already mentioned the Jerky Boys, for God's sake.
Yeah,
I'm happy. Any stupid, silly shit makes me laugh, especially prank phone calls. But the reality show phenomenon, which has been going on for a long time, I've never gotten into, with the exception of the Scream Queen show, where that was movie based, and at least there was a competition and whatnot. But of all the reality shows, the ones I can't stand the most are the dating shows, your Bachelors and Bachelorettes and Paradise and all that bullshit and whatnot. I think they're completely disingenuous. They don't they're not representative of reality. I don't care, as much as I hate people sometimes, I don't care to live in the pretentious misery or faux happiness of some of these people. I don't have the time for it. It's not interesting to me. Even if they're complete douchebags, it's not interesting to me. Obviously, I'm not going to watch the entire season to see Eyedrop Man, but that's the kind of thing has happened in other shows.
Exactly.
That they don't bother to show.
And the best part was, this cameraman knows, because the guy's not going to be on the show anymore.
Yeah.
So this guy let this guy throw himself under the bus, and the camera was just like, sure, go ahead. Like, didn't care, just let this guy do it. And you would think the cameraman would be like, oh, this is going to be perfect. We'll get you to cry. Instead, they threw him under the bus, let him do it, and then showed it. It's the best cringe ever. And the best part is they always end up showing, they tempt these people later on, because you know they do, when they come back to their living quarters after the week of their, quote, honeymoon, like engagement honeymoon, they then put them up in these apartment buildings where they can kind of go talk to each other as couples and this and that. Yeah. And they go to like their jobs and stuff because they base them all in one city. So in this case, it's Texas. So they actually could start going to work and like normal. However, they'll do like a barbecue night, and then, you know, they'll invite some of the people who were on the periphery of some of these relationships that didn't make it. They would invite some of the girls that you haven't seen in 3 weeks back to the thing to see if maybe some of the guys might go, oh, that's right, I did kind of talk to her once or whatever. Well, Clinky eye drop man, the thing with the photos. He shows back up when the girl, of course, is having problems with her fiance because he's liking some other girl or whatever. And the guy's back on the show, goes right back into the, oh, yes, and I don't know. I would have, you know, you gotta respect your time with him, but it would have been so much different with me, but the thing and and the whole time he doesn't know yet because they haven't aired that they've already thrown this guy under the bus. So you watch him just lie right to her face. Like, you know they're lying, but like you don't know that they're lying. This guy is a liar, but he's a liar, and now you really know he's a liar. So all this glassing and glass clinking and all this crap, and I decided to jump from a plane, because I thought that life was this, and he's just talking to her, and you're like, you liar. And she doesn't know it, and you're just like, he's a liar. The guy put eye drops in his eyes. You want to scream at her and tell her to, like, it's silly. It's ridiculous. They're ridiculous. I think at the heart of all of these shows, the premise kind of makes sense. And then they just use that thing that kind of makes sense and are completely disingenuous on it. If you really had 4 people and you tried to make them talk to each other for 3 months through a wall, you tried to see if someone might be attracted to someone's intelligence or wit or humor or whatever, and then they genuinely wanted to get married and they really didn't care what the other person looked like, I'm sure there are experiments done at colleges that involve, doctors of psychology or whatever that kind of are based on this premise. That might be an interesting documentary or something. But this whole disingenuous thing with this experiment with the pods, and we're going to see if... Oh, come on. That's what makes it funny.
He pulled a Tom Grunick. Amazing. You can get fired for things like that. I got promoted for things like that.
That's right.
Some people get that reference.
It's huge, though. So at the very least, I'll put a clip if I'm sure there's a clip of him putting eye drops in his eyes.
I'll watch that clip.
I will send that to you, and I will post a link to the trailers and the link to the guy putting the stupid eye drops in his eyes, because it's...
Yeah, I'm the guy that will watch that show and root for unhappiness across the board. Just divorce and no's and everything. I just root against every single person on that show.
There are genuinely, I think, people that are on that show for the right reasons. And, of course, those are probably the people that don't get the engagement and are off the show and never show back up because they're probably too genuine.
Right.
And they're not as fun, and that's why they got to go. But, yeah. Yeah, I love a good trash show. You got to find your fun where you find it. And this, for whatever reason, tickles our fancy in this house because they're just silly.
Reminds me of Singles Night on the cruise. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Remember that? Yeah. It's Singles Night. Oh, let's go there. Couples. Just nothing but couples show up. I'm like, well.
Hey, some couples are looking for singles.
Well, not on that.
Come on, it's a boat. You can't go anywhere. That's what they're looking for.
I didn't see anyone looking to throuple there.
I like that. I like how it's not threesome anymore. It's thruple. I love the word thruple. I don't know why. It's so hilarious.
Because I'll tell you why, and this is just I just came up with this, but I'm sure it has some weight. Threesome is there's a sexual implication.
Sure.
Thruple means relationship.
Love.
Love.
Yeah.
Yes. One is fucking, the other's making love.
That's right. There's a distinction.
There is.
So yeah, check out Love is Blind if you like trash. It's...
Again, we couldn't have planned the show any better. Not that I'm going to recommend trash, but I'm actually going to go complete 180 on you, because I'm going to talk about a movie, a film, as George Costanza once said. I told you last night when we were talking that I had to get up early this morning to watch a movie.
Way too early.
Way too early. And the reason I did that, I've had this screening link since last Friday, and just days went by. I was either too tired to watch it, and because this is a movie that's been playing the film festivals. I missed it at Toronto. It played up against something, so I didn't get to see it there. I thought I was going to get to see it in October. It didn't end up happening. Then I found out, it's like, oh, they're giving out links to it. I'm like, oh, I got to see this movie, because everyone that I had seen the movie, that I trust and I follow, and colleagues and stuff like that, anyone who had seen this movie couldn't tweet out something. It basically just like, I finally saw Aftersun, and yes, I am weeping.
Wow.
Yeah. Every and like they all use the same word, weeping. So it's this movie called Aftersun.
Aftersun, S-O-N or S-U-N?
S-U-N. Aftersun, one word. Probably haven't heard of it. It's just playing the art houses right now. It's going to be at the Music Box. I think it's been playing there like this week, or it's going to be there this upcoming week. It's going to be at the Music Box in Chicago. And it's a debut film from a woman named Charlotte Wells, her first feature film. And it stars an actor named...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You got a link for this?
I got a link for this. Yeah.
Promo.
Promo. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Oh, I got it. No, you're right. There's an actor named Paul Mescal, who stars in the movie, and there's a young actress named Francesca Corio, and they're father and daughter. And as the movie opens, and pretty much what we see is they're on some sort of holiday together, just on vacation. We don't really know the full circumstances of their relationship, why they're on holiday, any of that. They're father and daughter. They're on vacation. And the movie early on kind of alternates between actual film, and videotape footage that the girl is taking, or the father has taken, of them doing some activity or talking with each other, stuff like that. And the movie is set in the mid-90s, I think 1995. So actual video cameras, no cell phones or anything like that. So it's alternating, and you're not quite certain what you're watching entirely. By that, you just, again, like you said, you don't know the full nature of their relationship, why they're on holiday, where's the mother, all these kind of things. And the movie starts dropping hints as to what may be going on. Little things, but nothing like they go like, oh, that's what's going on. Just little things, audio clues and things you can pick up on. And that's pretty much the bulk of the movie, is them on holiday, and they meet some vacation friends and some young people there that the daughter hangs out with, and again, there's other things going on in the movie that you just kind of go like, what is going on here? Not to give too much away, because you really can't, is that we discover that what we're seeing basically is a memory piece, a remembrance of this holiday by the older version of the daughter. And she's either having dreams about it, or actually watching some of this video footage that she took. that's just a very small part of it. That's just, again, it's like another little visual clue that gives you a sense like, oh, whatever this is something that's stuck in her memory and she's revisiting now at an older age. And I'll explain a little bit later. I don't want to give too much away, but this movie is incredible. And it's, again, because it's not the kind of thing that everything is spelled out all the way through. By the end, you have a clearer picture. But at the same time, so much of it is still kept so ambiguous that, and I would talk about the show on Nick DiGilio's podcast this morning, and he really, really put in perspective that uh, it pulls out of you what you attach to it. Like, if you think the movie is about this, that's what it's about. If you think it's about this and this happened, then that's what it's about. So whoever, you and I could have completely different interpretations of what we just witnessed. And I didn't, again, it's them on vacation, it's them talking, the way that they interact with each other. And I got towards the end of the movie and I was crying by the end of it. And part of that was nudged in a way. We just talked about Black Panther on Movie Madness. That'll be coming out soon. And one of the things we were talking about is the experience of seeing movies in the theater with an audience, and the way there's a collective, and it was very silent in Black Panther and whatnot, and so you read the room. It's not working or whatever. And you brought up the whole idea of how studios and publicists, they play this cliche that they've been doing for years, where they want critics to go to a promo screening with an audience, because if they laugh, you'll laugh.
Sure.
That thing. There's an influence factor in that. And then if they don't rely on that, they go like, well, we really want you to see this movie on the big screen to have the theatrical experience, which makes sense for certain movies. Other movies, not so much. Not so much at all. And technically, this movie is something you could watch at home. Like, it's not so crafted in such a way that a big screen is going to illuminate it in a certain way. It might, because it's so bigger, it might work on you a different way. But, it's not Lawrence of Arabia. Right? Okay?
It's not a big Star Wars movie, Marvel movie. It's Mad Max.
So, like, even at Toronto, where I missed the screening of it because it was up against something else that I needed to see, and talking to the publicist in the studios, like, oh, hey, give me a link for it so I can watch it. Like, yeah, we'll send you a link and whatnot. And it just never materialized. But then more than half the time when you ask for a link for a movie like this that is not streaming, it's just going to be in theaters. But they've been doing it more and more lately because of the pandemic.
Right.
It just kind of the seal basically got broken on that whole thing. And we joke about it now. It's like, they can't ever tell us again that they don't have links, because there's always a link somewhere, even for Lawrence of Arabia. But so, like, this, but you still hear, well, would like you go to a screening of it. Can you get to the screening? I'm like, no, I can't make the screening. Send me a link. Okay, we'll send you a link after the screening. Okay, whatever. So I'm watching this at home this morning after 4.5 hours sleep, watching the election coverage last night. Was aware that it was a somewhat slow-moving start to the story before you start to recognize what the movie's about. And again, it kind of proves my theory that a good movie will trump tiredness every time. I've been, people say, oh, I'm too tired of the film festival and I fell asleep and whatnot. I've never fallen asleep at a good movie at a film festival. If I'm I'm on 4 hours sleep because I saw the midnight film the night before, and I go to see a 9 o'clock movie and it sucks, It's gonna happen. I'm gonna be bobbing my head down, trying to keep my head up, watching the thing. Didn't happen this morning. Put it on the big TV, sitting here watching it. Yeah, not a lot of action, just watching these two characters go about their business. Maybe partially fueled by the fact that I knew everyone loved this movie, so there must be something to it. So
Sure.
I'm paying attention to it. And so I did have to pause it at 1 second because, we babysit. Uh, so my nephew, niece were over here. I had to pause it for a second. I had about half hour left in the movie, maybe a little bit more, 40 minutes maybe. And get to about the last 15 minutes of the movie, where I have the narrative in my head where I think this movie is headed, whether or not it's going to get there, but I have an idea kind of what's going on in this movie. And my nephew comes into the room last 15 minutes of the movie and just gets up and sits on my lap. And I'm sitting here watching the movie, this story of this father and daughter. That seems to be maybe one of the last times they're together.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
My nephew sits on my lap for the last 15 minutes. Normally, he'll show up and, what's that person doing? Well, that person's going to the store. Why? Well, they needed some food. Why? It's the 3-year-old.
Sure.
That's what you get. He didn't say a word. He sat here and watched the last 15 minutes of the movie. Clearly he didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right.
Sat here on my lap watching the movie, and now I have this child on my lap while I'm watching this thing, and this movie gets to this moment where it uses a Queen song in one of the most remarkable ways. Not just the choice of song, which is not a song that we haven't heard in many other movies before. But they use the song, and I'm just like, okay. And I see that they're setting me up for a kill here. And they're playing the song, and this part of the song, what they do is they take out the music, and they're just playing the lyrics of the song. And it gets to a portion of the song when they get to this last line that they keep repeating over and over. And when that happens, and everything just sort of clicks for you, what's going on in this moment in the movie. And I have my nephew on my lap, just gone. And then it ends on this remarkable final shot that people have been talking about. And it's perfect. It's creative. It's amazing. It's so perfect. I didn't know. I want to watch it again, but I don't know if I'm ready to watch it again. But it's one of the most amazing movies I've seen all year.
Wow.
And, yeah, and again, it's not a comic book movie. It's not a mainstream thing that people are going to be seeing, but people go see this movie however you see it. You see it in a theater, you see it at home. Eventually, if it will probably be on streaming, probably by Christmas time, maybe.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Is it coming to a Netflix or Hulu or a whatever?
Not
Amazon.
It's an A24 film, so it's not coming just yet to Netflix, but it's not going to do a huge ton of business. So probably 3 to 6 weeks, somewhere in that window, it'll be probably on like an Amazon, probably like a VOD, so a video on you'll
Gotcha.
be paid for. But yeah, it won't be on Netflix or Hulu just yet. It's such a low key movie. I don't know if it's gonna make any waves with the Oscars and whatnot, but you're gonna see a lot of it show up on critics lists and awards at the end of the year. Yeah, a debut feature. Nick called it one of the greatest debut features of all time.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, you sort of bring it's BYOB. You bring your own baggage.
Okay.
Basically. And yeah, and like I said, I have my interpretation that also has a Audible itself attached to it. Other people might take a darker view of what's going on. I didn't go there. I thought it for couple moments, but I don't go there with it. Yeah, it's called Aftersun. It's pretty amazing, and it was worth getting up this morning for.
That alone is high praise. But then obviously how it affected you. I'm a bit of a soft touch when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like obviously the whole Field of Dreams stuff, it's every
Sure.
guy our age, but like I can't watch Up. That gets me. There's a bunch of other movies that do that. So it'll be interesting cuz we'll end up watching it. Mrs. Fun and I am sure.
Yeah.
Once we get access to it.
It's just nice to see. Again, I completely support trash. I love silliness. I love stupid.
Sure.
In the movies all the time. I'm complete supporter of it as long as it's well done, it's funny, and it's all of that. But it's nice. Recently, we are getting into that season, and just like between like this, the movie Tar with Kate Blanchett, and the Banshees of Inisherin with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. It's just nice to see these movies that I just keep thinking about after I see them. Like, it doesn't just fade away immediately. Like, oh, that was good. And then I don't think about it for 14 years until it's on a trivia question or something. But I just keep thinking about these, like, damn, this is really good. I want to see this again and see how this works. And wow, what an amazing final shot. Tar has one like that as well. It's just, I don't know. It's you get to the end of the year and you've gone through 9 months of goofy stuff or less challenging stuff, and then you get to the end of the year and you get a couple movies like this, and you're just like, yeah, this is why we do it.
Well, isn't that the beauty of any art form, really?
Absolutely.
You get your salad bar, right?
Right.
Sometimes you're in the mood for the chicken and the heavy stuff on top, and sometimes you just want something light or sweet, or you hit the dessert part of the salad bar. You don't even want the meal; you just want the dessert because it's all you can eat ice cream or whatever.
Sure.
That's the beauty of it. We watched earlier in the year, right? We watched Beavis and Butthead. There is nothing heavy about that movie, but it's absolutely hilarious and silly and great and stupid, and it's great. But then you can watch something like this and have a visceral, emotional response at the end. I'm like, what? Who? The fact that something like that can even do it to you shows the craft behind it. There was so much thought and skill and planning put into it to get you to that point, because whether they're doing it on purpose or not, they know that it's probably going to affect you that way.
Yeah, and the ambiguity of it is what is so key to it, because you go see a Nicholas Sparks movie and he kills everyone with cancer. It's like, well, cancer has affected us all in some vicinity, at all. So just like, okay, I'm going to kill the guy with cancer. He's like, well, if you know someone with cancer, it might affect you in a certain way.
Sure. Here,
they don't use words like that. And I'm not saying that's what it is. Or what, if it's even in the ballpark of that. But you just kind of have to watch their behavior, what they talk about, and surmise from that what ultimately happened at the end of it. Some of it's clear, some of it's not at all.
Sure.
But you walk away with your own interpretation of it, and you're not wrong. So, and to the studios, who I know are all watching this show.
Oh, yes. High on their list. I'm number one.
I challenge them
movie studios.
all. I challenge them all to come up with a better theatrical experience than my nephew showing up at the exact right time during the last 15 minutes of this movie to help provoke all of that. I'm sure I would have probably gotten there if he wasn't here, but just the fact that he was there and was quiet, which never happens.
Well, he was, whatever it was, it got him to just watch it.
Yeah.
And not be like, well, who's that? Why are they talking?
Yeah. Right. Why are they dancing? What are they doing then? What's this song? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. I challenge any studio to tell me that I would have had a better experience just watching it by myself in a crowded theater.
The Queen song wasn't Bicycle, was it?
It was not Bicycle. Bicycle Race.
You're right.
It was not Bicycle Race. Bicycle. No. It was not.
That would seem inappropriate.
If I gave you like 5 guesses,
I probably could get it.
Bet you could probably guess it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, it's on my list. I just have it down here. It'll be something I'm sure the two of us will hunt down and enjoy.
Yeah. About 95 minutes doesn't not gonna eat up your entire day.
Again, that's okay if it's good.
Of course.
Then it's worth your time.
Of course. Unless it's 161 minutes and you walk out going, what was that?
Yeah. Huh? What?
Hmm?
What? Yeah. Pissed on Patreon.
That's right.
Yeah. So normally we talk about things we're looking forward to, and I say one. So there's a little bit of a caveat here. Okay. Is I've played Vampire Survivors and I've talked to you about it. Yes. Very kind of simple game, but fun, and I've been playing it on the PC, and it only costs $3, and it's just one guy doing it. It's a very fun, silly game. It went on Xbox Game Pass for PC, and so you could download it on PC for free, even though it only cost you $3 anyway. You should give this guy $10 because it's one guy doing it, and it's great. But anyway, it was on Xbox Game Pass, PC, so there was no excuse there. You could just play it. You could do it because you're an Xbox Ultimate. Yeah. You could just download it right on your computer now. However, you can only play it on the PC. And tomorrow, it is officially coming to console on the Xbox. And so it's just my little thing is I can't wait to play it again. But upstairs, in a more just sort of upstairs casual situation as opposed to being down here and setting all this up to do it, it's going to be fun. That's tomorrow. So anybody who heard me talk about it or anybody who doesn't know about Vampire Survivors, look it up. There'll be a link. Game Pass tomorrow. So if you're a Game Pass member, it's free. Even if you didn't want to spend the $3 to give to this guy, it's free tomorrow. There's no excuse. You can either play it on the PC or play it on your Xbox. Or, and I believe that what will have it is if you're an Xbox Game Pass person, you can also cloud play it. So you can play it on your phone using Xbox Cloud and then stream your game and play the stream of the game. So you could even do it mobilely. It's crazy what they're doing now. But Vampire Survivors on the console tomorrow if you haven't been playing it on PC. You have no excuse. However, my real thing I'm looking forward to, another thing, but the main one, is there's a RPG studio called Obsidian, and they're old. They had some say in the original Fallout games. They also did one of the sequels to the more current versions of the Fallout games called Fallout New Vegas, which was initially panned because it really wasn't built well and problems. They fixed it all up, and it is by far, it's really one of the best Fallout games around, and you can play that on your Xbox and on PC and all kinds of places. But they're really well known for their role-playing games, all different kinds, top-down ones, third-person or first-person ones like the Fallout games, some more adventure-y style ones. Out of the blue, though, they put out a trailer. I want to say it was at this year's E3, which is normally around April-y, I think. And it was for a game called Pentiment. 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 And it is a role-playing game. There appears to be combat in it, but it appears to be more role-playing. It's more heavily story-based. But the shell of this game, what really interests me in it is, when you're watching, this is the only way I can think to tell someone who can't see it, the easiest way to do it is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay.
So, the art with the black and white, like facts, like the feet that Monty Python uses and all that stuff in their show, Flying Circus. Yeah. That art, the transitional art, cartoony art. They did a similar one in the Holy Grail, but they used the old-timey, it almost looks like stained glass, and it's like the little people that you would see on a scroll or a very fine book. And, you have the handwritten calligraphy style writing, but then to the left you may have like a nun holding up a chalice and there be like light coming off of it. It's a cartoon, it's a drawing, but it almost looks like a little piece of stained glass of her. It's that style of art, scroll style art. You may see a flourish at the bottom of a thing with like a heavy calligraphy S at the bottom with the two lines through it to sort of frame a document or something.
Okay.
This is very. It's the only way I can think to explain it. Think of that transitional art in Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay.
It is a game built entirely in that art form, in that art style. So your little guys have very limited animation. They almost look like stick figures. It's 2D, but it has sort of a plane, it appears to be either a 3-lane thing or you can freely kind of walk around. But you may have to go to, it looks like, it'd be in the Bring Out Your Dead timeline. It's not a current storyline with people dressed like us. It's based in also the time that this art would be prevalent in those drawings. And so it's people with cloaks on or the executioner guy with the axe and the hood and the guy standing by there, or a king with his kingly robes and all that kind of thing. Hovels instead of houses, that kind of. And it looks like all the sentences, all the speech and conversation pathing you're choosing to engage with is written in Old English. Have entered thy village, that kind of, it's like that. And all the words appear, if I remember correctly, they're in the sort of Old Englishy calligraphy style handwriting. But as the story progresses, they show like you going up to a shopkeep, and it gives you 3 responses. You can be either aggressive or monotone or maybe super nice, like are you trying to schmooze the guy to get a discount or whatever, and they'll give you 3 options. And then I'm assuming with most of these RPG games there's usually 6, 8, 10 different outcomes at the very, very end of the thing. Have you become the ultimate bad guy or the ultimate good guy or somewhere in between? Is the princess dead? Is it not? Is this or that? But it also appears to have a bit of humor. Almost, it knows what it is, and they're not saying it's an homage to Monty Python, but it's not overtly silly. But even in the preview, which I will send you after this just so you can see it, but there'll be a link down in the notes, is like they show what I think he's at like a pub. Your character's at a pub, and it just shows like a guy behind you with like a headlock. He has you like a headlock, and there's just another one of these stained glassy looking figures in front of you with his arm cocked at like a 90 degree because it's like almost like a 2D puppeteering kind of thing, like just punching you in the stomach. It's not super cool combat like you would see in a modern super cool actiony role-playing game. It's this sort of silly animation of a guy beating you up at a bar by repeatedly punching you in the stomach with the noise being repeated. And so there appears to be this sense of humor in it, which is not something Obsidian and these Fallout games and stuff have their own wicked sense of humor, but this seems to be a tiny bit silly. And it's coming out on Game Pass, and I'm really looking forward to it. Because Obsidian makes really good role-playing games.
Yeah. And
this is so out of their norm. And you really don't get too many silly video games like this, especially in the role-playing game realm.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're attempting this sort of bit of humor, and it's not this super high-fidelity looking amazing thing. It's this weird, quirky art. And the stories they're saying is that within Obsidian, it was just like they had some spare time and they told a couple, like 5 or 10 of the guys at work, they're like, come up with some ideas. Let's see what you got. And they came up with this. And the studio was like, this is kind of really fun. This is really cool. You know what? We don't need you doing anything else. Just see what you can do with it. and they finished it, and it's coming out. It's not only will it be on PC and other places, but day one it'll be on Game Pass because Xbox now owns Obsidian. So Game Pass, it'll be free to play. So if you're a Game Pass person, download it when it comes out. I want to say it's November or later this month. And if you're not, I can't imagine it being a full $60 price game anyway. That doesn't appear to be in that style. So I don't think they've said what the price is yet, but it'll probably be in the $30 to $40 range instead. So it'll be even a little bit more affordable if you have to pay for it. And if you're an Xbox Game Pass person, you should be able to either get it on PC or console day one.
Nice.
And enjoy the silliness, it looks like. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Very cool. That sounds fun. I really got to get back in the games. I really just as a cool down thing from life. But I get angry playing the game sometimes. So, but,
there's some fun stuff that isn't competitive. There's a lot. There's one I think you would really like, although it's not on our list or we're not doing it. But it's called The Witness.
Yeah.
And you wake up on an island, and it's just imagine the entire island is full of puzzles. There's no competition, no online multiplayer, no nothing. And you just walk around the island and complete all these weird little random puzzles. But it's not like two. It's hours and hours of puzzles, movement puzzles, sun using shades and stuff like that puzzles. You don't have to get like agitated. There's nothing in there that's going to agitate you. It's just, can you complete the puzzle or not? It's all these. So yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff like that. That Immortality one we talked about last time, that might be something you like. It's non-confrontational and it's kind of a game. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Mine is a little more self-serving.
Okay.
But it's sort of hinted at with this movie Aftersun and whatnot. It's November, and as we get into Thanksgiving and December, it's award season. And award season for us film critics, especially those that really like to pay attention to it, and really, especially myself, that I'm involved in counting and stuff like that. I get a kick out of doing that stuff and seeing the way that my colleagues vote on certain things and whatnot. So yeah, I'm not giving away any tricks of the trade or anything. I just count votes. But it also means I get to access. I don't think you need to do a promo for that because I haven't gotten any of them yet.
Okay.
But it means I'll be watching a lot more at home this next couple of months, which is always really fun. It's fun to get to revisit these movies, and ever since the first time I got one of those back in 2000, which was when they used to send VHS tapes.
Yep.
To us. I still remember how ecstatic I was when I got that VHS screener of Castaway, like a week after, like days after. I don't even know if the movie was out yet, honestly.
Really?
It was like days after I had seen the screening of it, and the screening was probably at least a week before the movie came out, so it was very possible that I had it like around that time. And that's kind of a rarity. I've gotten screeners over the years where they've sent out things before the movie even opens in theaters, which is always kind of a cool thing. Letters from Iwo Jima, I remember that came like a month before it even opened in theaters. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to revisiting some of the great stuff from this year.
And I'll start soon. Have you?
Yeah, usually Thanksgiving is sort of like when it kind of kicks in overdrive a bit. We start getting kind of dribs and drabs up to that point. Just got a whole screening platform today from one of the studios, as a matter of fact, so maybe promo for that. Yeah, but in a few weeks, and a lot of stuff will be on platforms, so if you want to have viewing parties, I'll say it, people do it. So it doesn't matter. I'm not giving you screeners. I'm just, everyone gets to enjoy the movies. Sometimes select people get to see the movies.
It's a fun time of year, especially catching up.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be in touch about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's still watching, but Mrs. Fun reminded me. So I'll just do one for her, even though she doesn't normally
Yes.
get on here. Excuse me. I was reminded of a game that I've played before, but we saw someone else playing it, and then I clued her into it, and I said, I really think you'd enjoy it. It's called Mini Motorways, and you can download it on Apple Arcade if you're a member of Apple Arcade. I don't know if it's... I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Apple Arcade.
Yeah, so you can get it on your phone, on your iPad, and if you have an Apple computer. I don't know if you can do that on PC on Apple Arcade, but if you're an Apple Arcade member, which is another sort of little subscription service, you can download that for free there. But you can also just purchase it. I think you can even play it on the PC, but it's basically just a connect the dots thing. They have like work buildings and a red house, and it's a red house, a red work building, and you just take your finger and you have 10 roads. Well, 6 of them will get you the quickest way to the factory, and so the cars start moving. Pretty calm. Then they'll introduce a blue house and a blue factory, but they'll put the factory facing the other way, and they'll put it over here on the other side of a river. But you only have one bridge, so now you have to draw a line there, and you only have so many pieces of road. And then after the end of every week, they give you an option. Do you want a street light and 20 roads, or do you want another bridge and 20 roads? And they're like, okay, well, I'll take the street lights. Well, once you start crossing streets, now the cars have to stop periodically at that crossway. Well, now they'll introduce a purple building or 12 more red houses. Well, the factory needs this many. Progressively gets harder and harder, and it becomes this weird little maze as time goes on of how do I get these cars to these buildings the fastest and the highest and this and that. And we spent the other night, just before we went to bed, I jumped to bed, and we each had our iPads, and we were playing the level. And there's even a competitive one, a daily challenge, and there's a world leaderboard on who got the most cars to the most people. So it's just a silly little thing, but she wanted me to mention that. Mini Motorways. They also have one called Mini... It's not Subway. Mini... What would be another word for Subway?
Underground train.
Yeah, there's another word for it. But no. But it looks like a New York map. If you've ever been to New York and you go down to the subway, it's that.
The subway, yeah.
That's where the color codes came from, because they made that one first. So the red line to the purple line goes here and stuff. Right. And so they did that one first. Yeah, so they have that one that's based on train systems, and then this new one is the one with cars. And it's just cute. Very monotone, very calm initially, and towards the end it gets a little more hectic, but it's silly and fun, and she wanted me to mention it. So you could do that too. Another game for you to play. That's free if you're an Apple Arcade member, and I think it's probably only $5 or $6 if you want to throw a couple dollars their way. But yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it and your patience these last couple of weeks.
Can't be helped.
The what?
Can't be helped.
Well, it probably could have been helped, but I chose.
Yeah.
At the last here, but yeah, I wanted to do it tonight and get back into the swing of things. So I may even. She said I should stream some Motorways. So maybe this weekend I'll stream some Motorways, or by the end of next week I'll do some of that. Yeah. And then some Vampire Survivors tomorrow, possibly. And when Pentiment comes out, I'll definitely be doing that. Yeah. And I'll be streaming a little bit more in the next few weeks to do some of that. And I might add some buttons with some noises and stuff.
Shameless plug.
Yeah,
quick,
of course.
We do this. The next Elk Grove cinema event, Elk Grove Village, we're for our Christmas movie. We're doing Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
Of course.
So perfect Christmas movie. Don't bring the kids.
But
hopefully bring the adults. You can bring older kids. I mean, that's fine. But bring the adults, and we'll end up having a discussion about that movie. And people are like, "What the hell was that?" Well, let us tell you.
Do we all have to wear masks?
Yes. You do not have to know the second password, though.
Can you imagine us, a bunch of people? Someone's going to show up. At least one person with a mask.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, if they came, Beetlejuice cosplay happened at the last one. So, I mean, I hope someone shows up with, if not the same masks in the movie, but, if someone shows up in like the high priest outfit, I might run myself. So, but yeah. a pretty amazing movie that a lot of people don't know what to make heads or tails of it. I find it fascinating. So,
and that's next
December 7th.
December 7th.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, December 7th. Yeah.
I think there's a link to that whole ongoing schedule for that. I'll find that link.
Yeah,
for
there
the
is
Elk
one
Grove.
available at the Elk Grove site. I have a link. I should send it to you. I have a link for it somewhere.
Well, it's on the Elk Grove.
It's on the Elk Grove
site.
website.
Yeah, I'll find it, and
I'll
there'll be a link down here to that too. So
Yeah.
maybe Eyes Wide Shut isn't your thing. There'll be a January movie and a February movie and all that good stuff.
So if people want to know what they are, I mean, January we're doing Tootsie,
awesome.
and in February we're doing Shawshank Redemption.
Awesome.
So that's what we got going right now, and the rest of 2023 is starting to come together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks again.
Of course.
And thanks everybody for listening. And make sure you also, there'll be a link. Go to Erik's Movie Madness podcast, as well as the Friendship Dilemma with Morgan, who's been on here before. There'll be links in here for that, and we'll see who's next week. Mystery. Later.
Later, man.